Hello, my name's Debbie Huxton and I work with Transforming Communities Together as a modern slavery campaigner, campaigning against the evil crime of modern slavery and human trafficking. My role is funded by the Lichfield Diocese Mothers Union. Today is International Women's Day. After the turmoil of 2020, it seems right, it seems appropriate and more important for us to join voices with people around the world and deliver a clear message for equal rights, to state that women's rights are human rights. Today we celebrate all women in all their diversities. We embrace their facets and intersections of faith, their race and ethnicity and every ability. Today we celebrate those who came before us, those who stand with us now and those who will come after us. And the global theme for this day in 2021 is Women in Leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. Because COVID-19 has severely impacted women and girls in the most profound ways, magnifying and amplifying the inequalities that we face each and every day. It's fundamental that we have diverse women's voices and their experiences central to the national and global recovery plans. A key contributor to a more equal COVID-19 world is actually increasing those leadership roles for women. The history of International Women's Day goes back to 1908 against a backdrop of terrible working conditions and exploitation. 15,000 women took to the streets in New York, protesting for shorter hours, better pay and voting rights. The following year, the Socialist Party of America announced a National Women's Day to honour those strikers. And in 1910, it went global. The Socialist International voted for the creation of a Women's Day to advocate for suffrage. The very first International Women's Day was then held and celebrated in 1911, and more than 1 million people turned out to rallies across Europe. For most of the 20th century, International Women's Day was acknowledged and celebrated by people at the grassroots level. It was a rallying point for social justice. But it wasn't until 1975, in the year where it was classed as International Women's Year, that the United Nations adopted International Women's Day on the 8th of March. And it's still held every year on this date. So why is it important? It's important for us to celebrate this day and to continue campaigning because we are not there yet. Today is a day to recognise how far we've come towards gender equality, but to also recognise how far we have left to go. Back in 1911, only 8 countries allowed women to vote. Equal pay for equal work was absolutely unheard of, if women were even allowed to work at all. More than 100 years ago, that first march was about ending harmful workplace conditions, campaigning for equal rights and equal pay, and to bring an end to exploitation. But sadly, those aims are still relevant today. We still need to campaign to achieve those things. Today is a once-a-year opportunity for us to remind governments, to remind businesses and everyone else watching that women aren't going anywhere and we are prepared to take action to achieve our human rights. Because progress has not been equal. Now, some women may feel that they have not encountered discrimination or harassment or face systemic barriers to their success. But that is not the experience of all women. So today is an opportunity for us to acknowledge, each of us to acknowledge the compounded challenges faced by women of colour, women with disabilities and sexuality preferences, to stand in partnership with them, that they will not be exploited or left out. It's a show of solidarity for our sisters living in countries who may not be able to march out of fear for their safety. Today we remember that as long as one woman faces discrimination, harassment, inequality or oppression, then we all do. If one suffers, we all suffer. And today is also a day where we can get re-inspired, re-energised, reignited and refuelled, to remind ourselves that millions of women are walking with us and standing with us across the world. Today we can remember that women are also at the forefront of the battle against COVID-19. Frontline workers, healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, scientists, caregivers, moms. An analysis of COVID-19 has revealed that from 87 countries, it found only 3.5% of them had gender parity. When women lead, we see positive results. Some of the most efficient and exemplary responses to COVID-19 pandemic have been led by women, are being led by women. Women across the world are coming together to shine a light on inequality today, while also celebrating the achievements of women who have overcome many barriers to inequality. This year, the need for celebration, it is more urgent. Global data released by the UN suggests that the pandemic could put gender equality back by 25 years as a result of women doing significantly more domestic chores and family care. Research done by Counting Dead Women calculated at least 16 domestic abuse killings of women and children had taken place in the first 3 weeks of lockdown in the United Kingdom. Healthcare has also been affected. Thousands of women have missed out on life-saving breast screening and smear tests. The hashtag being used is Choose to Challenge. Choose to Challenge, where we recognise the need to call out for an end to gender bias and inequality. We must choose to challenge for ourselves and for our daughters, for our granddaughters. 1 in 5 women has experienced some form of sexual violence since the age of 16. That is a report by the Home Office. In the arena of exploitation, we can make a difference. With modern slavery and human trafficking, sadly 71% of victims are women and children. And when it comes to sexual exploitation, that increases to 99%. We have to do something. And indeed you can. Every single week I hold an online modern slavery session covering the subject of exploitation and what we can do as individuals to speak out in our families, our communities, wherever we live and work. Let us be a people of hope. Let us be a people of our word. Let us be people that take action. Let us choose to challenge.